Now, sleep apnea, I'm on the side of not favorable, and I am not a fan of this change whatsoever, not even a little bit. So basically, if you were to submit, let's just say these are proposed, but let's say they are in effect right now, and you submit a sleep apnea claim and you have a CPAP and it works, um, you are now rated at 0%. So that's going from 50 to 0, which is that's not a 10% change, right? That's a big change. That's why it sucks. Now, in the rating criteria or the rating schedule that's proposed, um, there still is the 50% rating criteria with the CPAP, but there's a little clause in there, and I can't remember the words verbatim, but a medical professional must deem that your coexisting disabilities prevent you from wearing the CPAP, right? And there's verbiage in there. The reason why I say the medical professional must deem, because that means you just can't say, "Hey, doc, I can't wear it." That's not going to fly, right?
Right.
There has to be a medical determination saying, "Hey, due to your severe PTSD or night terrors or
Right.
whatever it is that looks like for you, you're
Right.
you're incapable." That's a good word. You're incapable of wearing the CPAP machine. Therefore, you're still rated at 50. And so there still is a criteria there, but it's not going to be a self-report. And so everyone who's saying they can't use their CPAPs, um, it needs to be a better argument than that. Last thing I'll say, and I'll kick it for your 2 cents, is the CPAP machine it sends data to wherever it came
Mhm.
from. Okay, and so there is no I'm using it, but I'm not going to tell the VA. Or the opposite, I'm not using it, but I'm going to tell the VA I'm using it. That's not going to fly. One, that's getting into the fraudulent side. So I'm just cautioning you not to lie at all, ever. But especially with sleep apnea, because it sends data, right? It's kind of like if your sister already told your mom she snitched on you, and you come home and your mom asks you, "Where were you at last night?" and you say, "I was home," right? She already knows the answer. It's the
Right.
same thing here. So I'm not a fan of sleep apnea changes at all. I think it's a very, very poor decision, and I'll give my opinion on that after you take it away. But I'm curious to hear your kind of 2 cents on sleep apnea and what are veterans going to do about it.
Yeah, it's a horrible thing. Now, just to kind of throw it out there, because we oftentimes you're going to hear us say that if this change goes through, you are screwed in whatever way, right? Loosely. Not if you're already rated, you're grandfathered in, right? Just as a
Mhm.
reminder. So it's not changing for you if you're already rated. We're talking about the new people that have never filed and file after the change is actually in effect. So of everything you say, I agree with 1,000%. I think it's a horrible change. Um, I, I don't know what kind. So here's what happens with these. The proposed changes go out. They go into the Federal Register. They allow comments for 60 days, and then they may make variations or implement some of the suggested changes. Does it always happen? No. But there was a tremendous amount of pushback, as you could imagine, from not just the few of us, right, that knew that this was going on, but mostly you're going to get your veteran service organizations, right, your
Mhm.
VFWs, your American Legions, that type of stuff. So just because something gets proposed, it's living now as a proposal. Even if there's all these conversations happening in the background, there's still this proposal. Is it going to come to fruition exactly like it looks? Maybe, right? That's what you have to prepare for. If you have the ability to, file your claim today, probably do that, right? If you're not already in that boat. If you're at a lower rating on sleep apnea, and since then you've gotten a CPAP, right? You need to go in for an increase because you have a
Mhm.
CPAP, right? And I know that's probably a small percentage of people, but it's a friendly reminder. The riding the fence idea of putting in an intent to file today, important. I think all those things are really important. If you miss the boat and you're now in the situation of, okay, it's in effect, it is what it is. It's now I would be rated 0% or whatever. Um, but if you going back to what you said, Clay, about the verbiage in there, basically that you can't wear it for whatever reasons, right? And I love the examples you gave, the PTSD, the night terrors, that type of stuff. I mean, you feel like you're getting, strangled all night long.
Yeah.
Um, that's a very traumatic situation, right? So um, you saying it alone, and I know that's what you already said, doesn't really count. But you need to say it, and you need to say it to your doctor and
Mhm.
explain it to your doctor like full throated. I mean, you need to say, "Hey, look, this is really important. I really, really need you to acknowledge this, right? And if I can get it in writing, right? Because I need to submit it to the VA." Now, if you're seeing a non-VA doctor, right? Because ideally, um, if you're seeing a non-VA doctor, the verbiage that I like to use just to kind of soften it a little bit is something to, not exactly, but something to the effect of, "Hey, doc, can you write this letter for me? I'm submitting some paperwork to the VA so that way they'll reimburse me for my medical expenses."
Yeah.
Right? So that way they feel like, okay, cool, they're going to reimburse you. That means you can come here more and we can have this little dance and you can pay me more money as your doctor because I love you. Right? Instead of, "Hey, doc, I'm trying to get put into the VA healthcare system so I can leave you." That's a different vibe. Right? So, um, something to that effect usually helps the doctor feel a little more apt to helping you with these letters and that type of stuff. I'm also a fan of giving them some sort of an idea of again, you're the patient, you and your situation better than anybody, but you need to articulate it to them so they can then put it in writing for you. Give them a little template of kind of some of the key things that you're looking to have reinforced by them, and then get that because you're going to need it in order to prove that you just can't function without or
Mhm.
with the CPAP actually on. And instead, you have your wife just wake you up every time you start to not breathe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Die. Yeah.
So I don't have sleep apnea. I could just imagine. And I mean, look, maybe it wouldn't. I don't even know if it would work on this whole thing going on. I mean, maybe it would. I don't know. But I got a lot. I get strangled at night, so I kind of go. Anyway, back to you, Clay.
Yeah, so the reason why I disagree, there's many reasons, but one of the main ones, and I'm gonna be biased here, the my generation is very near and dear to my heart, right? That post 9/11 generation, it's just my peers, all my friends, a lot of them have sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is heavily correlated to breathing in heavy particulates in like Afghan, Iraq, Syria, Somalia, basically it's not covered
Everywhere.
under the
Yeah.
PACT Act. It's not covered under the PACT Act, but it should be, in my opinion. Okay, because there's heavy correlation there, and the change to sleep apnea, especially the drastic change going from 50 to 0, I kind of feel like this is. It feels like the VA is saying, "Hey, post 9/11, f you." That's what it feels like to me. There's really no I get mixed feelings on that. And so it does make me mad. I don't understand how cuz sleep apnea can be very severe. Sleep apnea, your airway is obstructive, okay? Let's talk about sleep now. If you're not sleeping for a long period of time, I'm talking
Uh,
like not 3 days, not 4 days. I'm talking like 10 years, you're getting little sleep over the span of 10 years, that the taxes your body is going to pay
Oof.
in the most literal sense, you're dying. Like you are dying every single night and your airways obstructive. So although you're resting or you're sleeping, your body's like this, and that's huge stress. And that leads to, guess what? Blood pressure, high blood pressure. That leads to heart conditions. I mean, there are some very serious, people say tinnitus is like the gateway drug. I love how you brought that up, the gateway drug to like VA healthcare and VA benefits. I would say sleep apnea is the gateway drug to dying.